My name is Shapley Brooks. I am currently the program director for the Build program, a program of Roxbury Youth Works. We're located in Dorchester, Massachusetts, and I have been the program director there for 2 years. I am also the baby sister of Oba Hardy, and we've had a pretty rough life. Our mother died when I was 7, so that means Oba would have been about 9. There was first a custody battle for us between our birth family, our blood family, and the woman who ended up adopting us, and she adopted myself, Oba, and my sister Makiba, who was 11 at the time of my mother's death. Excuse the sirens. In that time, all 3 of us were molested and raped. I mean, I'm sorry, this is probably very triggering for the board, but we were molested and raped for many, many years. Oba ended up running away, and he ran away to first North Carolina to our birth family, our blood family. And when he ran away, he ended up getting in trouble, as well as, going to jail and all of that. If you know anything about sexual assault, abuse, and exploitation in children, especially cisgender boys, which Oba is a cisgender male, the way that those things show up in our lives or in their lives is by way of it's more external, right? And so this is something that I do for a living. I teach this all of the time. I talk to people all the time about exploitation and sexual assault of children, especially cisgender males, trans youth, and gender nonconforming youth. And my brother, who is a cisgender male, began to fall in line with some of the things that happen with cisgender boys, right? So he began to sell drugs, and he began to fight, and that started pretty early. He began to, our mother passed away, and he was being sexually assaulted. He was being raped at 11 by grown women. He was also being raped by men as well, and those things began to show up externally, and it was by way of hypersexuality. He also began to become honestly violent towards not only himself but towards others. So that means gang violence, trying to find family wherever he could. Our father was nowhere involved, and to be honest with you, we're in our 30s and 40s and he's still not involved. Oba began to just really act out. We had my sister, it was all internal for her, and it started to show up with her, and she ran away. My issues didn't start showing up until I got older, and so what I will say is that my brother, a young black man who has been through some of the worst sexual assault and violence, I remember my birth mother locking him out, not my birth mother, my adopted mother locking him out of the house as we begged for him to be let in. And I remember, us being beaten for allowing him in the home. But she would lock him out of the house, and he was only 12, 13 years old. She would pick him up and pick all of us up by our necks and throw us and put her foot in our necks. She would lock the kitchen up, and we couldn't eat. I remember my brother stole cans of corn for us, and we opened it and ate it upstairs in the attic because we were so hungry. DCF came to see us and immediately turned around and went the other way, which is why I became, who I am and in the field that I am in. But for my brother, like I said, who is a cisgender male, this showed up differently for him, and that's why he began on the journey that he is. He's a young black man who turned his life around, and one of the ways in which he was able to find some kind of solace was in music. That's been something that's been a part of our family for forever, both our birth family as well as our adopted family. I sing, he sings, he's amazing. and he's able to, you know, really put himself and put his love into his music. And that's another way that's very cathartic for him. It's therapeutic for him. So I understand that there are rules, right? There are federal guidelines that says that he can't have a FAFSA, right? However, there are scholarships that you're able to offer him. And if you're really doing your diversity, equity, and inclusion work, and you're really thinking about restorative justice, I would say that this is a person that you can use as an example of restorative justice. I think that my brother, having children himself, has really tried to do the work himself, the therapeutic work himself, going to therapy, as well as really restoring relationships around him, and really trying to get his life back on track. So this here would be something that would change his life in the course of his life forever. You have the ability to help make something better for a young man who has been given nothing but hell his entire life. And he's a young black man who really is just trying to get it back on track. And there are so many people who do not do that. So I give my brother all of the praise and the applause for what he's doing, because he is still fighting 30 some odd years, 39 years later. I think I'm right? Because I'll be 37, right? Over. So 39 years later, he is still fighting for just a little glimmer of hope. And if you're able to provide that, we would be so ever so grateful, ever so thankful. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I'll give you my work number, 617-959-0469. And also, there are any other way that you can reach me. I do diversity, equity, and inclusion work all over the state of Massachusetts. I can be looked up. I've worked for United Way. I have a pretty long history of doing great work. I've worked for DCF, for the state of Georgia, for the state of Missouri. I'm a reputable person, and I've been doing this for some time, and I do know the things that he's been through. If you're thinking of being trauma informed, and like I said, if you're doing your own anti-racist work and your own diversity, equity, and inclusion work, then you would know, as a cisgender male, growing up as a black cisgender male in America, going through what he went through, he can only go up from here, right? He's only able to survive if somebody reaches their hand out and helps. So my hope is that you'll do that for him, and get him back on the track that he is so desperately trying to be on. Thank you, and I hope that you have a blessed day.